Table of Contents. Forward Chapter 1. Sense of Urgency Basics. Chapter 2. Know Your Audience. Chapter 3. Identify Your Goals. Chapter 4. Find a Role Model. Chapter 5. Recognize and demonstrate your value. Chapter 6. The bad points of not chasing your dream. Wrapping up. Forward. Success does not come easy for some, but for most, the secret ingredient for success is the sense of urgency to achieve the said success. The hunger element for the success plays a huge role, is pushing the individual to their limits and sometimes even beyond. Get the hunger here. Urgency for success. Developing that drive for quick success. Chapter 1. Sense of Urgency Basics. Synopsis. There are several ways to develop this sense of urgency in order to have high achievement standards. The basics. Perhaps the first and most basic requirement on the journey to achieve success effectively and quickly would be to developing a habit to think and plan in depth. Taking the time to exercise this practice regularly would eventually allow the individual to launch into it habitually. Once this is established, the individual would then be able to make assessments and provide or design solutions at a faster speed and also at a more accurate one. Then developing the skill to stay consistent would be the next step. Having the general tasks outlined, it would then be prudent to ensure these are carried out in a prompt and flowing manner. This habit would then enable the individual to focus and produce high-quality performance and productivity. Being more in tune with what is being done and the various workings within the task outlines, the natural instincts of being more alert and aware would also be developed over time. These instincts will help the individual avoid any possible follies along the way. At the first sign of potential problems, the appropriate solutions can be developed based on the ideas and insights gained from other past experiences. The sense of urgency can and usually does produce these kinds of positive reactions, and over time and experience it can be fine-tuned to be more effective in producing the desired results. This comes from the inner drive to complete something quickly and successfully. Chapter 2. Know Your Audience. Synopsis. In the drive to success, one must be able to identify with one's target audience effectively, because in doing so the chances of achieving the goals set will be higher and better. If the target audience is not interested in the material or plan being presented, then there will be very little progress made towards getting them on board and fired up. Who are you talking to? Doing the research to identify the best types of people to target is ensure a better and higher percentage of success, as the material being presented will be appealing to them. This is perhaps the most important element when targeting the desired audience base. Learning to identify and use this element to one's advantage will be very helpful in the process of getting and keeping the attention of the desired audience. Once the target audience is adequately identified, then the sense of urgency should be encouraged in order to ensure the endeavor is launched as quickly and as efficiently as possible. This will be especially easy if the motivation levels are at the very highest. Being able to reach the audience because of the background information gained to time spent developing it can help to narrow down the individual most likely to respond positively to any project. Having a good grasp on the knowledge needed to create a sense of urgency within the participants is also another way of ensuring success. This will be evident when queries and ideas are being discussed, and if the exercise is well managed, the sense of urgency will be sufficiently heightened. However, the presenter should be well equipped to address any and all questions being put forth. Emphasizing on the point that the opportunity being presented to the target audience is both phenomenal and perhaps even hinting that it has the possibility of being limited will also create the positive encouragement to entice commitment. Chapter 3. Identify Your Goals. Synopsis. There are several types of goal-setting exercises that can be adopted to suit the need of a family unit. These goals will vary greatly from one family to another, so there is a need to define what the family goals are as a unit and as individuals within the family. When this is successfully done, then the identification of the necessary element that will produce the desired results can then be designed. What do you want to do? Family goals are a very powerful way to build trust, communication, togetherness, and many other positive elements. It's also a good way to encouraging children to learn how to set goals within their own little worlds. Here are some recommendations that can be followed in the pursuit to identifying and setting goals. The exercise of setting goals should be done with the participation of every family member. This participation should be active rather than passive, and age should not be a deterrent. Younger children can sometimes be surprisingly insightful and can come up with very workable solutions to a particular goal. Limiting the amount of goals the family has to work with is also advised. When there is too much going on, there will be very little concentrated focus on actually making a success of the goal and its eventual positive results. Identifying and setting the goals should not be limited to any particular time of the year or phase in a family member's life. These exercises should be done if and when necessary and is a spontaneous fashion to ensure there is not threatening feelings arising. Setting up an incentive plan within the goal-setting exercise will also encourage maximum participation and results of all the family members. Sometimes it may be necessary to set a time frame for the intended goals set. This is to ensure some results can be forthcoming rather than constant procrastination. Chapter 4. Find a role model. Synopsis. Seeking and trying out different ways to become a success is always recommended. One of the most effective ways of becoming a success is through the process of trying to emulate someone or something. Because the success is already somewhat like a blueprint to follow and is very possible to achieve, the effort directed towards the goal becomes easier. Look up to. When there is a visual example, the task of having to push one's self without direction does not become a problem, as the motivating factor is the example set. Having a mentor who will be there to motivate and advise is also very advantageous, especially when the proposed task is rather challenging and perhaps even hard to achieve. Emulation is always easier than paving the way on new ground. Having a role model also helps the individual to know and understand exactly what it entails to see the endeavor to its success. The role model can present a very tangible example which can help the individual weigh the various possibilities within an endeavor before actually launching into it. Role models also help to set the pace and benchmark for the individual to follow. These examples can be followed and improved upon throughout the journey to success. Seeing the desired goal as an achievable element is a very powerful tool to equip one's self with, therefore taking the trouble to find and follow a good role model is a wise thing to do. Sometimes a seemingly insignificant thing like dressing for the part as seen in the role model also help to develop the mindset set for success. If there are instances of minor setbacks or failures, the individual is able to tap into the knowledge and style pre-established by the role model to work round the problem with some degree of success. Chapter 5. Recognize and demonstrate your value. Synopsis. There are several ways to recognize and demonstrate an individual's value, whether it is in relation to work ethics, style, business acumen, or even more personal elements like family, entertainment, and a host of other avenues. The value. Finding the more subtle ways to demonstrate these values is in itself a valuable trait, as not much can be achieved when those around loathe the personalities who are attention-seeking. One way of doing this is by presenting one's credentials clearly displayed on a calling card. These business cards are a great way of introducing one's capabilities without being pompous about it. It is in fact simply stating facts of achievement on the individual's part. Having such certification to back the reference on the card will show the professional capability and credibility of the individual so that due recognition can be established. This also puts the individual in a knowledgeable position on a particular topic. Whenever there are instances that present themselves where the individual is able to shine, the opportunity to do so should be taken quickly and decisively. Contributing in an area where the individual is confident in his or her contributing capabilities is a good way of showing the value gained in picking them for the task. Making one's self available to assist in any familiar area also helps to establish one's obvious capabilities. Always be ready to add value, knowledge, and expertise to any endeavor presented. This will influence those around to be more positive in their assessment of the said individual. When an individual is always willing to try out new things and learn from experiences, then this is a good place to start leaning and fine-tuning skill acquired along the way. These skills should then evolve into a platform of confidence in taking risks and decisions that would otherwise be deemed irrational. The recognition derived from these sometimes taxing exercises can also produce the individual that can be clearly accepted as valuable. Chapter 6. The bad points of not chasing your dream. Synopsis. A large majority of people would rather life within a safe and unchallenging boundary for fear of failure. Thus the popular saying, "Nothing ventured, nothing gained." However, the most telling result of this way of thinking is the eventual regret felt, which almost always is irreversible. Great info. When an individual is unable to identify and map out a possible plan for working towards a goal, this individual is likely to make a habit of setting for just a mediocre life. When this habit is clearly and concretely formed, the fight factor that is the important ingredient in achieving milestones will never be developed or even become completely non-existent at all. Allowing this rather negative trait to manifest will not benefit and may even cause the individual to live a lackluster life, always settling, instead to trying to push for greater heights. If there is no zest for chasing a dream, there will be no goal to achieve. Most individuals like the idea of always being challenged to achieve better things simply because it seems to give them a reason for existence. Another negative trait that often surfaces when there is not dream to keep an individual going is bitterness. Bitterness can have such detrimental effects on any individual, spanning from the mental to the physical capabilities, until the said individual is just a shell of his or her original self. Wrapping up. Becoming stagnant in one's personal and work life is also another result of not being able to have a dream to chase. Scientific research has proven time and time again that if an individual is not challenged mentally and physically, they will eventually be reduced to a state of boredom and then despair, which will eventually result in depression. Having a dream to chase or a goal to achieve will provide the necessary distraction that can and will keep the mind and body alert and functioning to its optimum.